Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing? Well, I hope? Good. So I hit the trifecta today. I get to experience an earthquake here in Los Angeles. I get to be up here with a legend, Renetta McCann, really. And we have the privilege of spending the next half hour with the future of our industry, the rising stars. And as Chris said, you know, last year they went on last. They had the graveyard shift. There was about 20 people in the room, and we promised them, since they hit it out of the park, that they would have a feature slot at this year's conference. And I have to tell you, I can't be more excited and more optimistic about where our industry is going. And I think you'll feel the same way after you hear this quartet speak. So are you guys ready to meet the rising stars? Let me hear it. Got to give them a big round of applause. I think, you know, they need a little bit louder. Last year, there was like this little quiet applause for them. There were 20. Give them a real, let's hear it. Are you ready to meet them? All right, cool. Let's bring out the future of our industry, the rising stars. Here they are.
Our industry was built on the foundation of brilliant men and women. We are storytellers, innovators, brand builders, truth seekers, competitors, renegades, know-it-alls. Let's shout it from Madison Avenue and beyond.
We are ready to carry the torch and fuel the fire. We will burn the midnight oil to elevate our craft, to make the world a better place, to challenge ourselves and one another. This is not a job for one, or even a few. We all stand to succeed by working together.
We want to create a vibrant and dynamic culture in the workplace and in the world. We want to elevate our value to our businesses and our clients. We will challenge the way the game has been played. We will question the status quo.
We will push the boundaries of what is possible. We will be relentlessly curious for what's next. Let's plant our stake in the ground. What's your first step?
Written and performed by them. So last year was a whisper. This year, big shout out to you guys. A lot of work's been done over the last year. And, you know, the 4A's created the Rising Stars about the future of our industry. You guys all stepped forward and were handpicked. So tell us what it means to you. Tell us why this is so important, and tell us what you hope to succeed. Like, what does success look like? It's pretty scary out there.
Scary but exciting at the same time, yeah. I think. And I think we're thrilled to be here day one in the morning, to see all of you out there. This is a really incredible audience and such an honor to be able to speak with you and kind of talk about what we've been doing. The last time you saw us, there were 7 of us up on the stage. We were, you know, just getting to know each other, and the 4A's had just sort of tasked us with this idea: how do we engage the younger generation? How do we engage the rising stars? And what we sort of realized at Transformation last year, after hearing from all of you and being able to listen to the presentations, one that really struck us was the truth brief. We've heard a lot about that this morning already from Nancy and from Chris. Really inspiring stuff there. This might be more than just the younger generation. This could be more about the industry overall, and how sort of we relate to each other and how the outside world understands who we are. And so I think our success will be when we can change that landscape, right? And that's really what we've been trying to do over the last year. When you first met us, we were also all media. I think we've extended tremendously. We've got account guys, creatives, strategists. We've talked to some publishers and some websites. I mean, we've really been, over the last year, doing our due diligence to figure out how we can change that landscape and what the landscape is in general. It's been a really exciting year. And we are no longer just 4 or 7. We're actually a group of 20 to 25 people who are working to make this thing come true. With the support of the 4A's, we couldn't have done it without them. So I think we're just really excited.
Hey, can I just rewind for half a second?
Sure.
Because your names are in the program, but not your pictures. So how about a who's who? Let's go from left to right and just kind of introduce yourselves.
I'm Jessica Merrill.
I'm Jenny Hoffman.
Lauren Johnson.
Monisha Tripathi.
Terrific. All right, now we can continue that discussion.
Well, I was going to say, you know, it's so interesting. When all of us got into the industry, The reason we joined is because we thought we could change the world, we could do really cool things, think creatively, and we forgot that like any entry-level job, right, you're sitting at your computer for 12 hours a day in Excel and PowerPoint. So we wanted to get our generation together and think about how we could re-inspire each other. And I think the past year has been extremely rewarding in more ways than we had imagined.
And I think another thing to point out is just that we realize, we thought we came into this game kind of to re-inspire our industry, or our generation, I mean, and we've ended up realizing that the industry, I think, needs to be reignited a bit. So we've been doing a lot of work, and along with the 4A's, and been working very closely with Bill and Chris and John Montgomery, and have such great mentorship and guidance from them to be able to push things forward and to be able to move this industry in a really great direction. So we're excited to share some things with you guys on that front as well.
And our first line of business was not calling ourselves the Rising Stars. There's nothing that screams entitled millennial than walking around and introducing yourself as the Rising Stars. So from here forth, we are known as the Advocates. Capital AD, and so we're really excited, and the great news is, which you'll hopefully hear not only on the stage, but over the coming months and years, is that the future is in good hands. The group of people that we get the pleasure of meeting with every single week are excited, and they're smart, and they're creative, and they every single week for 2+ hours we meet and talk about how to make this business better. So I know we're all excited to be able to represent all of them today up here and share with you guys what we've been working on.
Cool.
Great, great. So already this morning you've said that part of your platform is about all talent, and you've referenced how you've been working with the 4A's. I'm here because I represent the Chief Talent Officer Council at the 4A's, and we have become their advocates and partners. So tell us, from that, what kind of support do you need, both from the industry itself, but as well as your management?
That's a great question. It's interesting to think about why we're here, right? So it's the purpose of our group is really a dual purpose. One we'll get into a little bit later, and then the other half, Renetta, to your point, is all about talent and how we can engage our generation to really help further that in the future. So working with the CTO Council has been a joy. It's really wonderful. It's great to hear that the conversations they're having in their meetings, we're also having in ours with a different lens. So the support that we've gotten from the CTO Council has been fabulous. And so over the next few months and hopefully years, we'll be working on a few initiatives to give a millennial lens on how we can retain talent, recruit talent, and really help better the industry. So when we think about what we need, support is an obvious answer, but I think trust. I think our generation, we have to make our own mistakes to learn, and the ability to trust this group, I don't think you'll be disappointed. So
I'd also add to, in terms of trust, I think this is going to be a game where we're a little bit uncomfortable in the places that we're going, and I think transformation is a nod to that uncomfortability. But we have to be comfortable with being in a new space and being uncomfortable, and we're going to have to kind of move along with that and go with the flow, if you will. And some of the things that we're going to talk about are going to be a little bit weird for everybody, and people are going to say, I don't know if we can do that. I don't know that we can go into that space. But we are going to push this industry, and we have every intention of continuing to think of different ways that we can approach this industry, and especially talent, because I think talent is obviously our number one resource, and we've got to keep pushing and making sure that we support our talent. So.
And I think one thing that Jenny mentioned also is a lot of the conversations that are going on with the CTO are kind of the same things that we're talking about as a group. And that was something that really struck us last year at Transformation as well. Sort of these higher level conversations, they're the same thoughts and the same ideas that we're thinking also. They're along the same lines, because we're all, in the end, trying to get to one goal, right? So that's something that we really wanted to bring to life, and was what the Creative Manifesto, the video that you all just watched, where that really came about. We wanted to find a way to bridge that gap and come to that common agreement on this is what our goal is, this is what we want to do. And so we've been trying to do that with our 20 to 25 groups so far, trying to bridge that gap through communication. through pushing those boundaries, like Lauren mentioned, kind of get into the uncomfortable zone and have those tough conversations, whether it's with upper management or with your clients or just with each other.
And I think, we've really used, and I would challenge all of you either to ask us or to reach out. There's a group of 20 plus of us, so chances are a young person from your agency meets with us. We all meet together every Thursday. I challenge you to take what we're doing. So we have the luxury of using the 4A's kind of, we all have been working together to kind of test this thing out. But I think it's more powerful when it works its way back into the agencies. So, we've heard over time and through kind of, our conversations with each other about some of these initiatives already taking place at agencies. I know, at my agency, we have a group called the Future Board, and it's essentially what this is, but within my agency, and it's really just connecting, the senior leadership with some of the, junior leadership, and figuring out how do we tackle some of these problems. And the conversations, when everybody, to Lauren's point, when everyone can get a little uncomfortable and be willing to break down the boundaries and take off your title hats and take off your, kind of like be honest with each other and have honest conversations, a lot of really productive things happen. Give us the trust and let us take it on, and maybe we'll stumble a little bit along the way, but I think that more often than not, you'll see that we're very capable and we're very excited to work together to really bring this industry back to the great place that we know it has been, and really that we think it could be better than it ever was.
Cool. Last year, for those of you who were here, you made a very interesting observation. You said that the industry was led by a bunch of 60-year-old white men in suits. Okay?
Yeah.
Right? I remember that. I remember that. I'm like approaching that. And you look at the makeup of these ladies here. They're not 60-year-old white men in suits. Far from it. And do you really think, Renetta asked about talent and what do you need from your management to break through and to really lead the industry in the future and bring up a new generation of leaders. And do you feel you're making headway within your own agencies? We're a year into it. My big concern was you had a big mountain to climb in terms of getting through all the channels within your organizations. Mm-hmm. How do you feel a year later in terms of getting to those 60-year-old white men in suits, and is it working?
Yeah, I definitely think it's working, and I think part of the reason why we've kind of rebranded ourselves as advocates is because we have been working so closely with the industry leaders and the leaders of our agencies. And we have been working very closely with the Talent Council, and we've been able to make some instrumental change thus far. Mm-hmm. And most of that is, from the mentorship of the 4A's and the folks that they're involved with our council, and we cannot be more grateful for all of that support. But I think at the end of the day, all of the advocates that we hope to have in our group, they have that ability as well to tap into their agency resources and the agency leaders and the so-called old white men at their agencies as well, to make sure that they know and can unkeep the hose from the communication that happens sometimes at the top level and doesn't necessarily trickle down. So we want to be able to inspire not only just the advocates group as it stands at the moment, but also the young leaders that may not necessarily have been part of this group just yet, to be able to work very closely with their agency leaders, and I think we're doing that so far.
Well, we've seen it. I mean, we will sit up here and say that we know that it is very uncommon, and we are very honored and blessed that we get to have conversations like this with legends like sitting next to us in this room who have supported us over the past year. Very aware that is not very common for most people our age in this business. But the really cool thing that happens with this group is, and we'll get into some of it more in detail in a little bit, but we've seen those moments where the rest of our group, because we inspire each other and we kind of support each other, we're advocates for each other, that we've seen those moments where somebody will walk in the room and say, hey, I met with my, chief talent officer, I met with my CEO today, and you see these conversations starting to happen, and it's starting to bleed out. So while a year ago we said a lot and we kind of threw down the gauntlet a little bit, challenged ourselves, challenged all of you, we were nervous because we thought, ooh, what could we get done in a year? And I think we're just so excited to be on the stage today with everything that we have to say that it's working. Mm-hmm. And so with all of so if we only had 40 last year and it's working, now we have 1,100, exactly. So it really could work if you all help us. So that's exciting for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also, along the way, I'm sure each of you have had mentors, right? And you didn't get to where you got by not having some people groom you along the way and recognize your talent. But, I think advice is always great. I know, Renetta, you have given an enormous amount of advice to lots of people within the organizations that you have run, and I enjoy doing it as well. But what's the best piece of advice that each of you have been given from a mentor of yours and that you've taken to heart?
So I had the blessing of my mentor not only has stuck with me through the past 7 years. I'm aging out of this group, but that he was the one who actually told me. I didn't even know the business existed until we met, and he said something to me which we sometimes use as a kind of like a. I know we discuss it in more of like a negative way sometimes on this stage, but it's kept me in the business all these years. He said, the money will come. So I had just moved to New York from Florida. I couldn't afford to walk out the door of my very expensive apartment. And I remember there was times over the years, we all know that the starting salary is not glamorous. And my roommate started in another industry and was making way more money than me. And it was that over the years that him kind of reminding me over the years and sticking with me and saying, don't make a rash decision just because you can make $20,000 more somewhere else. And I knew, and so I always was able to take that element of it and put it kind of on the back burner, and let my passion for the industry and the support of the people that I worked with and the creativity and all that to kind of guide it and try to keep that on the back burner as much as possible.
And that reminds me, they always say that 20s are for learning and your 30s are for earning. And I think that's something that we've really seen in the best way.
I'm almost 30.
Yeah.
You're almost 30.
Yeah. I think the best piece of advice that I've gotten from a mentor is if you want to be loved, go home. And the reason I say that, I think there's especially in our industry, there's such a fine line between professionalism and personal relationships. I think that's one of the best parts about our industry is that it really is all based in who you know. And as we're starting, a couple years now in the industry, we have the opportunity to grow and learn by making tough decisions. And our generation likes to be liked, right? So it's not about being loved, it's about making the tough choice when you have to. And I think we've all had the wonderful blessing of being able to learn that within our group and the relationships that we have there.
I'd say the best piece of advice I was ever given was actually by my father, who is an engineer with Dr. Pepper, and he completely different industry that he works in, but very amazing professional in his own right. Started from the bottom, and now is up. And he told me yes, I started quoting my song. But he told me when I first graduated college, he said, "Listen, always listen." And you have so much to learn from the people that are around you. And to Jenny's point, your 20s are for learning and 30s are for earning. But I'd actually argue that every generation, every decade that you're in, you're there to learn. And every place you go, no matter what you're doing, I'm here to learn. I'm telling you guys what we're doing here with our advocates group. But at the end of the day, I stand to learn so much more from the people in this audience than I probably could ever give to you. And I'm humbled by that. And I think my father made sure that no matter where I go in my career and my life, that I always listen to the people that are around me and the people that can definitely help me grow.
I think the best piece of advice I've ever gotten is I had a mentor who said, stories don't get written sitting at your desk. And it was about writing a PowerPoint presentation. But I've really taken that as sort of a life lesson as well. I mean, stories don't get written sitting at your desk. If all you ever do is sit at your desk and then go home and sit at your couch, that's not life. It's not the story that I want to write. So I've really taken that to heart and made that sort of my mantra along the way of, even when it is a PowerPoint deck, I get up, I take a walk, I remove myself from the situation, come back, and then the story does fall. You just have to let it happen.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are sitting here this morning because of future potential, but you are leading and managing right now. So tell us how you all do that. How do you lead and manage the ones who work for you, the ones who are coming behind you?
Yeah. I'd actually say, I think that the group that we work with, and not just the 4 of us here, but the 20 that are back at home, I think we're actually a prime example of millennials managing millennials, and it's a great structure and kind of dynamic that we have. And I'd like to think that in 5, 10, 15 years that it might look like what an agency would look like, in a couple of years. And I think Jess had mentioned this before, when we walk into each one of our meetings, we take our agency hats off. You may have noticed that we didn't mention anything about our agencies. And as much as we love our agencies and we support them, for this initiative specifically, we don't want to have any of those conflicts, if you will. And we take our titles off. We say to ourselves, we came into this group and council because we were selected for a specific purpose, the skills that we can bring to the table. And we all acknowledge that we are leaders in our own right, and we respect that. And so at that point, we say to ourselves, what can you bring to the table, and how can we support you in your personal, your professional growth, regardless of where you stand in terms of title or your years of experience or what agency you're at, or if you're pitching a business that happens to be the same business that I'm pitching. So we throw kind of those competitive feelings out the window and just try and work towards that common goal. And I'd hope that, even now or in 5, 10 years, that's what our industry will look like, that we all will kind of toss out the titles and the egos and just work towards that goal, because there's so much that we can do that we don't even have sight of right now. And I think some of the feelings that we harbor about, agency titles and competitiveness can kind of get in the way of that.
And
I
we
think-
always,
go ahead.
we always say that our generation isn't entitled, we're empowered, and there's a very big difference. And we're finding that, Lauren was talking about how we take off our agency hats, we take off our titles. We used to hold our meetings at the 4A's, who so generously gave us their space. And now over the past couple months, we started hosting our meetings at all the different agencies. So, I don't want to say any agency names, but we've gone to all these different places and been able to embrace the culture there. We learn what other agencies are like and how we can take all these best practices back to your own agency and really learn. And the best part, we always talk about, it's not about talking, it's about doing. So it's been so refreshing to see this year already. I mean, each speaker, John Hayes said, be curious. Dana, talked about giving until it hurts. This is so encouraging to see that it's very action-oriented. It's very a really big opportunity for people to take what they learn here back to their own agency.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So, all right, are we ready to let the genie out of the bottle?
Yes.
What do we think?
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
It's a big build-up.
So for the last 6 months, these ladies and a broader group have been working on an amazingly cool project. So on top of, helping to understand how the future leaders of this industry are going to be defined, they've been working on a really, really cool project. It has not been unleashed. The genie has not been let out of the bottle. And today on this stage, this morning, you're going to hear for the first time about this enormous ambition that they have, and it kind of gives you a sense as to the hope and dreams of the future of our industry. So I don't know who's going to step up to the plate and uncork the bottle, but ladies, let the genie out. Right?
So we're gonna tackle this all together. We said last year we got up on stage. We learned a lot over the 3 days. Very humbled, very excited, very nervous about planting our stake in the ground and saying, we were going to come back here. We wanted to show you guys that we took it very seriously and what we were going to do. We had mentioned we immediately pulled creative account, strategic, everybody into the fold to make sure that we were tackling this as an advertising industry as a whole versus just media, which we were at the time. We took the notion that we said it's empowered versus entitled, and we said, if we're a generation who truly believes that we can change the world, that we can make this world a better place, and we also happen to be a group of people in our industry who are the best and brightest minds that can sell any product to anybody, and we use all this creativity, what if we channeled all of that, and what if we put it together in the right way to really make a big difference? So this summer, 120 of the best and brightest in the industry, and the youngest, will come together in New York City for what we are calling a resolve, so not a conference. We will challenge the 120 attendees to tackle a global issue with a local face. So our challenge to this group will be to solve world hunger. We will be packing the day with discussions and thought leadership and inspiration. We will have the experts there in the field from all around the world talking about what it looks like globally and how do we make a difference locally. There will be ideas presented, they will be judged, a winning idea will be selected, and it will be implemented in partnership with City Harvest, which we're really excited about. And we just really couldn't be more excited about it. You will start to hear the buzz, hopefully, in the coming months from the junior leaders in your agency. And I, as we've said a couple times on the stage, really urge you to engage with them and support them and kind of hear what they have to say about it and kind of support their excitement around this initiative.
I mean, and to that point, we know that.
Wait, there's more. Yeah.
To that point, we know that these 120 people can only come if they have agency support, funds, encouragement. And when we were talking among the 20 of us about coming, we were surprised to hear that some people didn't think they'd be able to get the support from their agency, which we all found shocking because we've been met with nothing but a warm welcome whenever we've talked about this idea. So we got pledges from, so far we're up to about, I think, 10, 15 agencies who have pledged to send their talent if they're chosen, which has been absolutely wonderful, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate the support we've already gotten. The four of us will have a blank stack of pledges if any CEOs are in the room and would like to pledge to send their rising talent to this resolve in the summer. We'd greatly appreciate it.
And you will also be hearing more from us from a sponsor as well as media support. You'll be hearing more about how we might communicate this out, not only within our industry, but how we might show other industries and prospective talent, perhaps, of the great things that we can possibly do in this industry. So we definitely want all of your support to make this a great, great event, but then take it beyond, because this is not just a one-day thing. This is going to be a continuous effort to continue to reignite this community, and of course to contribute to a global issue that I think we can all be very passionate about and excited about. So look forward to talking to all of you and continue to get your support to drive this initiative further.
Yeah, I think the coolest part is that the idea, so over 12 hours, 120 of the youngest and brightest talent in the industry is going to get together, divide up into teams, and literally just come up with an idea to solve world hunger. And then we're going to put it into action. And I think that was the big thing that we said last year that we're saying today. We have to be more action-oriented. Let's stop talking to one another and just do stuff. And I think that's what kind of bridging the gap in communication is really all about, just putting everything to work. And to that end, we've done a little bit of field research and field work. Our group of advocates actually participated in a mobile market in the Bronx just a few weeks ago to actually see the lives that we would be touching with this solving hunger issue. Just really cool, really exciting. So stay tuned. It's going to be a whirlwind.
Yeah, so think about 120 of the best and the brightest in our industry, hand-selected by major agencies, medium-sized agencies, smaller agencies, all getting together. You guys are impatient for a 12-hour marathon with some pretty cool speakers along the way, solving a global problem, getting the entire media community behind it with PSA time to get the word out there. This will eventually go global. We hope to have the winning proposition presented at Cannes in the following year, and then take this global. So from my opinion, a little 15-person conversation last year at New Orleans to a global ambition now about solving a world problem in the future year that could be another issue. It to me is such a bright future, and the hope and dreams that we as an industry can bring to our future. I kind of get goosebumps thinking about it. I am. You're the future, and I feel really, really good about it.
Okay, great. So we're going to close out our time now. I would just like to leave you guys with the thought that all of us should leave the room a little bit more relieved that there really is bright talent currently in our industry, and they have a passion for the growth that's been talked about this morning, the collaboration, the search for new ideas. The other thing that I'll ask on behalf of them and the rest of us is that we all leave here with a sense of commitment. So say yes when they show up. When they hand you the paper, just sign it and date it and say thank you. Send people to the Resolve event. And stay in touch with your chief talent officers or whoever is leading the talent initiative in your organizations, and make sure that they're able to support the 4A's and the work it does with the CTO Council so that we can all be fostering the development of great talent in our industry. Thank you.
So thank you.